Hi everyone, welcome to Green Apple Books on the Park. My name is Car Johnson. I'm the event coordinator for Green Apple, and I am very happy to introduce to you tonight Seamus Isaac Fay as we celebrate his collection Decompose. Let's give a hand for Isaac. Or excuse me, Seamus. Seamus Isaac Fay. I fully know your name. Seamus is also joined tonight by Green Apple favorites, Ghazal Ali and Shelley Wong. Let's give a hand to both of them as well. I'm really glad to have all three of you, all three S-named poets, as has been pointed out to me here tonight. And thank you all for joining us on Friday. You could be anywhere, and I appreciate you all being here to celebrate this really great work that we have coming our way. So let's see. Thank you for joining us both in person tonight and online. Hello, online audience. I'm waving to a camera in case you can't see. We are broadcasting from San Francisco. We open each of our events with a land acknowledgement. We are in San Francisco on unceded Ramaytush land, and we think that acknowledgement without action doesn't quite lead to anything fruitful on our end. So we encourage you to donate either your time or monetary means to an Indigenous organization each time you hear a land acknowledgement. We at the back desk we have information about the Ramaytush Land Trust, which it'll take you directly to their website, and you can figure out how to participate in this project of rematriation. Very brief business before we move on to the heart of the evening. Now is a good time to silence your phones if you have not already. Do appreciate it. Is picture taking okay? Picture taking is okay. Great. Even encouraged even. Just don't take a call in the middle of the reading. That's not appropriate. Please do check out our full event calendar on our website at greenapplebooks.com. We have a really great season ahead of us, including the event that you are currently attending. The restroom is behind me. It is available after the event, not during the event for obvious reasons. If you need to know how to get there, I would gladly help you. We have copies of books by all three of our poets available at the front register tonight. What a treat, what a dream to walk away with this trio of books. If you don't have them on your shelves and in your hands and hearts already, what a great thing for you. I'm excited for you to read these books for the first time. I'm envious even. But in all seriousness, if you've been here before, you've definitely heard me say that when you buy books from us, not only do you support us as an independent bookstore, you support the poets who put so much work into making these books, and then you get to have a book. And Seamus is joining us from Los Angeles, so he's not here all the time, and that's very special, and they might sign it afterward if you ask politely. So tonight, just a run of show, we are going to hear a reading from each of our poets, and then I'm going to hop back up here. You'll see me again to facilitate audience Q&A if we have any, so think about them as you hear this work later down the line. It's always nice to get a question about your work. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the first poet joining us tonight. First, Shelley Wong is the author of As She Appears and is such a popular Green Apple reader that we had to put a moratorium on Shelley reading here because we had her here all the time and we're like, Shelley, we can't take up your time that much. But she's our former neighbor, and we're very appreciative of her. And she is the author of the fabulous collection As She Appears, which was longlisted for the National Book Award and winner of a Lambda Literary Award. She's received fellowships and support from Kundiman, McDowell, and Montalvo Art Center. Currently, she is an adjunct graduate professor at the University of San Francisco. Let's give a hand for Shelley Wong.
You're welcome. Hello. Thank you all for coming out. Super excited for tonight's meeting. And yes, I'm always here now picking up my books. And a joy to read in community. Private collection. At the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, the ocean drawn in pencil is no longer on display. I once thought I could wreck that water. My partner liked the painting of a blonde woman reading a newspaper, a sister to a Dutch painting I admired back in New York, where a woman contemplates a water pitcher in cathedral light. We walked gallery to gallery, and no women resembled us. I'm charmed by certain French words, but forget what they mean and never properly pronounce them. Allonge, de rigueur, occurrent. Sometimes couples become echoes of one another. We wore quiet glasses, our hair in low ponytails, like George Washington. She would photograph me when I looked away from her, as I glanced at the curves of the Grand Tetons, the raised head of the Greek caryatid locked in the British Museum, a winter forest floor somewhere in Oregon when we were 19 and I couldn't meet the camera's gaze, though I knew she was there and that she would hold me from a distance. Refrain. Farewell, romantic sacrifice. I choose myself. Some can only love once. How true will it be? I love sequins, but get the sequence confused. At our end, I broke from her, and every face grew stranger. Stranger, speak to me like light through a veil. Like a spent match, the darlings turn to find me, and I fade into the glitter. A sequoia has every vow like a closed hand. When I've worn my body down from dancing, I still point to the sky. I will honor my body, my only body, its honor, my will. Thank you. So this book was written over a decade, both writing, revising, and submitting. And because I sort of have a difficulty with writerly commitment, it wasn't a project book, but a series of many different sequences that I kind of braided together. And the heart of the book ended up being a series of poems that take place on Fire Island, which is a barrier island south of Long Island, New York, and it's known for its queer community, primarily in the summer. And I visited there when I lived with my partner in New York City in the summer, and then had the opportunity to return as an artist in residence for the national park that's there. And Fire Island is very much a place, sort of like some literary spaces, which are for and not for me as a queer woman of color. And this is sort of a funny poem about being stuck in the straight part, which is the national park area, trying to take a ferry to the queer section, which is the Pines and Cherry Grove. Weather advisory. It is foggy and the ferry will not travel east. The captain lost without his radar, sonar. Excuse me, sirs, this is a gay dancing emergency. Is heterosexuality the fog? I am slow with too much time, dressed in 4 shades of gray and a streak of pink. Oh, it's an older crowd. Oh, that's me. We all had the same Madonna Whitney childhood, set to synthesizer beats. Today I tried to pluck a pine cone, but the stem said no. I'm sorry, tree. I meant to ask consent. Between the pines and Cherry Grove, there's one path for tourists, another for cruising. Among the rangers, I feel famous. Are you the writer? Hello, bird. I have no sweetness to offer the bees. Where did Frank O'Hara wander and fall asleep on the beach? The first inhabitant of Fire Island was a shipwrecker. He lured ships to shore and killed the crews. It is not certain whether the island is named for these morning flames or its sunsets. I am a fire sign. Who should I touch with this burning? I loop along the bay, the marina, the beach, emptied of families. In the straight neighborhood, I watch men on break, pause one by one to take in my neon floral shorts. They reveal my kiss of a birthmark, the walk of a messy-haired woman, some faraway flower. Thank you. And then I'll close with this San Francisco poem, which, if you're local, begins in El Rio, the bar, and then ends in Q Bar in the Castro. This is called Pursuit. What did you buy for me in Connecticut? A small, strange gift, you wrote. We met at a lakeside retreat. You were perpetually emo, with a voice like a struck match. In your black t-shirt, you would lose your sulk if I glanced at you too long. You had raccoon eyeliner and a dangling chain wallet, like a Hot Topic teen. In your notebook, you wrote, "Where do I put this lust?" Because you had a woman and still listened for when I stepped out of the pool at night. Back in the city, over brunch, I said, okay, when you told me you didn't identify as a woman, and I meant to ask what pronouns you used. I got lost in your swirled hair. You invited me to a party and arrived with a new woman, younger than us. I took a selfie with your teacup dog. How many women did you walk through to reach me? You refused to dance, but I would not leave without joy, not after Orlando. Out of tired politeness, I danced with your date, who looked up at me, submissive and intent. Was it an audition? She said polyamory worked for her. Mormonism did not. My religion was that I didn't share. You kept drinking and I left early, sober. The last time I saw you, it was raining at a protest rally. We were strangers in the crowd. You had no umbrella, and I did, and neither of us could move. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have one more hand for Shelley Wong? Shelley Wong. As She Appears is one of my favorite collections ever, so it's always a true pleasure to be able to hear it read aloud. I want to live in it a little bit.
Thank you.
I'm excited to introduce our next reader. Our next reader is Sarah Ghazal Ali, who is the author of Theophanies, selected as Editor's Choice for the 2022 Alice James Award. Her poems and essays appear in Poetry, American Poetry Review, Pleiades, The Rumpus, and many other places. She is the editor-in-chief of Palette Poetry, poetry editor for West Branch, and a 2022-2023 Stadler Fellow at Bucknell University. Let's give a hand for Sarah Ghazal Ali.
Thank you. The last time I was here, I fell out of my chair, so I don't touch things anymore. Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here to hear you both read and to celebrate Seamus's beautiful new book. Yeah, this is just so special and wonderful. I will read just a couple of poems and then we can get to the main event. Self-portrait as Epiphany. I thought myself a child. The river revealed me a basket. Within, a doomed girl grew and groomed. When came the bush, I knew to burn, to shear errant tongues probing the cage. Mother sang of deliverance. Father prayed for a son. I revised myself a daughter, renounced duty, rolled stones down my throat. In a dream, the angel reveals me a book. I learn myself grime among false gods. Unashamed, I cramp. Between my legs, a clot. From a clot, I'll make men. Hollow myself wholly. Nothing laughs like me. Brittle, brutish, a woman baring her teeth. So my middle name is actually Ghazal, and people always ask me if I picked it, but it is I was born with that name. So naturally there are Ghazals in the book. So this is Ghazal Ghazal. My people are lovers of the Sher, Qasida, Ghazal. My people memorize the Quran and recite the Ghazal. My God elicits trust through Aqsam, oath after oath. My people sing, don't insist on leaving tonight, Farida's Ghazal. My people must include my father, his voice swinging from baritone to bellow. Did my God not make his mouth oral imprint of every sung Ghazal? My people say I am a morsel of their great green liver. My people love first like vultures, then martyrs. Death the sprawling shadow behind each sunlit Ghazal. My people are bordered, my people are borderless. My God swears by the fig, the olive, the brightest star, and a prophet who penned no Ghazal. My father practiced his English with me. I want to blame him. My voice void of, my throat hostile to Ghazals. My father uncovered my hair. I want to blame him. My prayers might never reach my God, nor these entreating Ghazals. Am I of my people? Do I please my Lord? My hair was bared, but someone veiled named me Ghazal. Eid al-Adha. That you have already killed a blindfolded goat, stroked its fur as it bled against your jeans. Were I to touch warm blood, eyes closed, I'd think it my own. Your dry hand over mine, urging me to follow my dreams, my throat hitching carefully around the pill, on the temperament attributed to each version's God. One version, Ibrahim was commanded, so obliged, so rewarded with a goat, a substitute sacrifice. Another, he woke from a dream, divined it a sign. I don't claim to know which son, but believe he nodded, insisted, you must. His eyes closed, his hand tightening over his father's, pulling the blade toward himself. Must I keep seeing these rites my father forbade? The dream roiling turbid through me a dream calving limbs, speaking. That you sat holding its cooling body, whispering 99 names to soothe until it stilled. The angle of the knife capable of precluding pain. That I believe this, and you, holding close the exegeses of fallible men. Thank you. I'll read just one more poem. I feel like reading another poem about dead animals. 1 second. I have to find it. Okay. Parable of flies. Dead insects. I heard them, wings beating a din beyond the thistle, pilgrims beckoned by the promise of carrion. Lured by the lurid, I followed their song off the path, turned my back to the lake. Angels fled the quarry, thirst a blight in their wake. The flies, their mouths roved like dogs the breast of a sundered wren, chest wide as a lens, steady spectator of its own death. This is an economy of asylum. Ruddy flesh calls, come, and brutes abound, haloing their open-handed new home. I'm divining my body a dirty domestic. When it rains, devotion is the womb I've hollowed to keep desire dry. Thank you.
Okay, let's keep it going for Sarah, please. We're very lucky to be able to host the launch of the Alchemies, and it was really special. And you fell off that chair so gracefully. Thank you, I needed that. No one even remembers. But seriously, thank you. I always love hearing your work. Without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce our featured reader for the evening. Seamus Isaac Fay is a trans writer living in Los Angeles. Currently, they're the poetry editor at Hooligan Magazine and co-creative director at Rock Pocket Productions. Their debut poetry collection, Decompose, is out with Not a Cult Media. His work has appeared in American Poetry Review, Poet Lore, The Sonora Review, and elsewhere. They love to beat their friends at Mario Party. And you can find them online at SK Creates. Their collection, Decompose, is the reason we are here tonight. Please give another hand for Seamus Isaac.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you all so much for being here. I am so remiss that I packed like the day of before I left, so I don't have my Theophanes crew neck, but I wear it literally all the time, like probably 3 times a week, probably too many times. So I also worked on this book for 10 years, so it's been very special to be touring it. I also love this neighborhood so much, and this bookstore is so cool, so thank you. Oh, I should probably have my water bottle. So, something that's made me think about the way that I order the book was that I always like to read it from the end to the beginning. So I'm going to do that. Not the whole book, obviously. When you encounter the devil, after Amy Nizuka Matado. When you encounter the devil, when you survive it, you have to let it die. Somewhere in you it will rot. Things may grow, wrong things may grow too, if you water them. Things will eat their way out of you, things that crawl out of your mouth and head first to your truest love. When you encounter the devil, pull the death card, peer into its flowers. They too come from the decompose. They decompose you, they feed, they lurch, they petal your cheek, they carve or caress, it's up to you. When you encounter the devil, it's up to you. Thank you. So, do you know how, like, your grandparents get, like, an idea of, like, 3 things that you like, and then they get you gifts based on that for, like, the rest of your life? My grandparents actually really popped off and got me this book that was called Write the Poem, and it would give you a prompt, and it would give you words to use, and normally I don't like being told what to do like that, but a couple of poems actually really happened from this book, and this is one of them. It's called Write a Poem About Wishes. You don't have to wish on anything, actually. I like those shooting stars as much as the next guy, and 11/11 is a cool time. And when I blew out my birthday candles, I saw shining gold, saw my current smile spread all the way into my future like raspberry jam on some good bread with real butter, or if it's vegan, it's Miyoko's. An intention holds more weight than we think. Sorry if I'm falsely accusing you, if you know the weight of will like I know when milk is 140 degrees, just with the tips of my fingers. And what consumes you is either wish or in the wish family, which again is wide and old as an encyclopedia's dream. Your late night yearning sends out a personal bat signal, and I've been the manifestor and the manifestee, seen even the wrong wish appear right in front of me, took her hand and kissed it. Thank you. This one's called Lightless. Has anyone in here ever been to Vegas?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Lightless. When Tor still thought he was straight, his best friend confessed his love to him. It freaked him out so bad he fled the state. Years later, he realized he loved him right back, went to Florida to tell him, and found out he was in the ground. Tor has told me this story twice, both times with his head pointed to his hands. I believe feelings are meant to be shared. If something inside me knocks, I spit it out, even if it seems impossible. My proof is this. when a lover told me to look out the window on our morning in Vegas. The Strip had lost all its lights, the reckless night leaving it abandoned and bleak. She said, "It looks like regret, doesn't it?" I nodded, seeing none of myself in it. Thank you. This one's called Edwin Says I Deserve to Be Loved with Precision, and it's for the poet Edwin Bodney. If you haven't read them, they have a book called A Study of Hands that I absolutely love. And this is for a time when they texted me thinking it was just like a text message, but it changed my entire life. Edwin says I deserve to be loved with precision. I didn't understand what precision meant until I made Nick a smoothie and counted his macros in tablespoons. He says that's not precise, it's only accurate. The difference, he says, is that 1 tablespoon varies in weight depending on the substance, though it is accurately 1 tablespoon. If you measure in grams, 5 grams is always 5 grams. That's the difference between accurate and precise, and if you want to be consistent, you want a measurement that doesn't vary. I imagine when I'm loved with precision, I'll know the weight of it. Thank you. I'm going to drink this water now. I really do appreciate how my book matches the tablecloth here.
And the chairs.
And the chairs. There are not many ways in which I'm very Libra-like, but this is one of them. This one's called Bad Ideas, and it was inspired by my friend Natasha Rao. If you haven't read her book, it's called Latitude. And I always say that this poem has an epigraph of Natasha Rao, but it's also dedicated to Natasha Rao, and it sits on my altar which has photos of Natasha Rao surrounded by candles, obviously. And I'm just obsessed with Natasha Rao. Bad Ideas. We unearthed the oldest bottle only to discover we waited too long and the cork has turned to clay. Natasha Rao. I was a terrible idea. My mother had me at 25, a direct result of cheating. In one hand, me, in the other, gasoline she poured all over our lives. She didn't have the capacity to do the dishes in her sink, let alone raise a child. At 16, I ran away for the first time to my narcissistic biological father, who at least paid the bills on time. At 18, I left them all for good with no proof there was anything better out there. Did you know the IRS considers playwriting a hobby? I learned this in my first college-level theater class and continued to get a degree in theater anyway. 2 years after I graduated, I bought a one-way ticket to a city I'd never been to in the middle of a global pandemic with no job lined up. Said city had 44,000 cases of a sickness that attacks your lungs. I have asthma. I have a deep desire for a savings account, and I write poetry. My friend, if you find the bottle, don't wait. Drink. Thank you. I never read this poem. Okay, I'm gonna read this poem. There's something about, going to the same, 10 every time. I really need to stop doing that. So in this book, I have 2 forms that I made. There was one that I made on purpose that I was like, it's gonna define the whole book. It's gonna be the heart of the book. It's gonna be the blood. There's one. And then the one that I made on accident, there's about 10. I call it Both Sides of the Coin, which is kind of how, I think about how people think that of both sides of the coin as opposites, but I think about how it's the same coin. So it's kind of like the shadow side and the light side of something. And it was also sort of inspired by, I read tarot. A lot of this book is inspired by tarot, but I don't read reversals because I think there's just a shadow side and a light side to every card. So this is one of the Both Sides of the Coin poems, and it has 2 prose stanzas, and they both have subsection titles. Ice cream before bed. Upright. Over the cards, my friends point to the child, new beginnings, the crossroads. They say there could be wrong turns. Focus only on what's new. I inquire what a wrong turn could disguise itself as. For example, they say, I know you would never. We know you would never. Reversed. I pay for the dark chocolate waffle cone in more ways than one. This is where the muddy gets water. The dream starts with a carousel of good times. New friends on the beach, a rocky hike, and then you. I'm livid. You're back to be with me for real this time. I'm so mad as I crack my heart open again to feed you the yolk, furious as I walk you back into my home. So I have nightmares every time I have ice cream before bed, and I still do it pretty often. So my editor for this collection, well, I'm very lucky. I actually had 3 editors. Dr. Taylor Bias, author of I Done Clicked My Heels 3 Times, Dia Roth, who's a fantastic poem, doesn't have a collection out yet, and Shira Ehrlichman. So when Shira and I sat down to have our first meeting, she was like, oh, so this poem is the heart of the collection. And it was totally a poem that I would have never thought. And then I realized that I have a very toxic habit of brushing away everything that makes me feel vulnerable. It's really cute. So I brushed this poem away naturally, thinking whatever, this old thing. And then she was like, try to read it at your next reading. So I did, and I almost cried, and I never do that. So I was like, I see. It's like me to me. You're being toxic right now. So I would agree. This is the heart of the collection. It's called Poem in Which You Get to Be a Kid for Gaia Rajan. You stub your toe hard. You cry, and you don't. Daisies open their fuzzy bellies to you. You pollinate. Chlorine trickles nearby. The blue doesn't reach you. You hike up the hill, you fall, and you don't. Finger paint is electricity. When you call, blanket is your first responder. You fall asleep on the floor, somebody moves you. You swim, you splash a great deal. Somebody reads the books to you first. Nobody picks the colors of your shirts but you. You point and it's yours. When you speak, they listen. When the door is closed, it is closed. If there is a faint knock, you choose. Rain is just drizzle, and nobody publishes any of it. Thank you. I've got a few more for you, specifically 4 more, actually. This one's really quick. It's called Everyone Calls Me Their Husband. Everyone calls me their husband, but no one is next to me when I wake up from the nightmares. Briefly, I consider the possibility of being a third in a relationship. Not to have sex with anyone, but to maybe hold hands with 2 people who adore me. After pondering on that more, I realize that means I just want parents, which unfortunately checks out. Taylor says, when I'm really upset, I avoid the question and make a lot of jokes. But Taylor, have you seen the weather? It's raining in LA. I've been laughing so much these days. Thank you. This one's called Dinosaur Spine. I don't know my blood type. There's no direct through line. I've never seen a tree bearing my ancestry as its leaves. I just know 2 people made me, though they probably shouldn't have. I say probably because I am alive and living well. Mystery isn't my genre. If I don't know already, I don't need to. The good questions don't have answers, and I don't ask questions I don't want the answer to. I'd rather widen the lens or narrow it. I don't know exactly what they did to me. Memory is fickle and changes to protect its keeper. I don't know the pills she was taking. I don't know if she was really going to kill me. A voice just said, run. I don't know the chances of children like me surviving, though I know they're mostly unforgiving. I say mostly because I am alive and living well. I don't know what damage was nature or nurtured. I don't have the answers. In theater school, they pointed it out to me, the unnatural shape of my spine. Goddamn theater kids and their massage trains. My dinosaur spine, they called it. They asked, did you get hurt when you were little? Yes. Thank you. Okay, we got 2 more for you. This one's called Unclean. I hope I feel whole again come summer. Put everything you wrote me away, and the little knickknacks, even the rocks you picked for me on hikes, even the rocks. There's a spot on the mirror where you wrote, you are perfect, which, of course, I erased. But after a long shower, its shadow came for a visit. I tried to wipe it away. No luck. You made me unclean again. In lieu of crumbling, I cocked my head back and said, thanks, bro. There will be a day where I don't hear you in every soft melody, man. The side of the bed you like to sleep on won't seem so separate to me, pal. I locked the door between us this time. Somewhere out there, you're looking at the same sky as me. That'll have to be enough, dude. Thank you. All right, last one. First poem in the collection. I also realize like I have to do this every time, but I have an epigraph from Bell Hooks and Mitski, and I really also have to thank them every time I read this collection. I also have to say that that's all you need to know about my personality. Bell Hooks and Mitski, that's it. That's me. This one is called I Tell My Friend the Painter That My Favorite Color Is Orange. I tell my friend the painter that my favorite color is orange. He says he doesn't really believe in orange, that it's just the space between yellow and red. He's not exactly wrong. Orange was known in Old English as Eula red, meaning yellow red. It wasn't until the 16th century that we started calling it orange, and even then the color was named after the fruit, not the other way around. He said he thought my color would be mustard. I said it's that too. Carmen says my color is coral with blood, fitting, light with a price. I'd say my favorite color is exactly that, the whole path from yellow to red. And haven't we always had to make space? At home in the journey, something wild between primaries. Thank you.
All right. Can we give one more hand for Seamus? I'm very, I was going to facilitate an audience Q&A, but I have a couple of questions for you before we do that. But you can come up and join me.
Okay.
Yeah, I have this chair for you.
Okay.
I will give you a microphone.
Okay.
Beautiful. You're doing great. This is exactly as I envisioned it.
Well, excellent.
Can we give one more hand for Seamus?
Thank you so much.
That was really great, and I'm finding I don't want to talk about myself too much, but as an NB Libra, I am like, wow, what's going on here? When is your birthday?
October 21st. Yours?
Awesome, October 16th.
Okay.
October
I'm closer
Libra.
to the Scorpio than you.
Yeah.
Which is not always a good thing.
I'm married a Scorpio, so get it. I just thank you for indulging me in astrological talk.
No, that's actually great because one of my astrologer besties is here.
Amazing, so. Great, thank you. Thanks for being here with us, everybody. But I think it comes. I mention all of this to say that I think it comes through that this is a very Libra book, by which I mean there's a lot of precision. There's a lot of looking at. When I say aesthetics, I don't mean like this looks nice. I mean like this belongs here. And the way you look at color and texture is like it doesn't need to be based on like when your birthday is, but I'm sure it helps. But anyway, it was a pleasure to listen to. And a question that I have for you was, can you remember like your entryway to this collection? I know you said you've been working on it for 10 years, but do you remember kind of where the inception was?
Yeah, I actually do. I had a poetry professor who was the late husband of Bridget Begin Kelly. And he was just like a crotchety old man, but I really loved him. He's actually in the acknowledgements. So I really wanted to impress him. So I did this like really toxic thing, which was I brought in a poem that was definitely done to workshop because I was just like, I'm pretty sure this is the best thing I've ever written. And I just really needed him to know. I just needed him to know that I could write. Which is not great, but here we are. And so like everyone went around the room and like people wanted me to take the M dash out of the title, which like weird punctuation in places it doesn't belong is a hill I will die on. It's actually probably one of the only hills I will die on, but I will die on that hill. He waited until the room got quiet. He said nothing the entire time. And then he said, I believe that we spend our whole life writing the same 5 poems, and this one is really close.
Ooh.
And then like the bell rang, which is great because I was like crying. I was like, this doesn't fit the whole moody writer vibe I was trying to give him. But it was the poem Fourth Generation, which was called I've Heard, but it was my first like something that's very loud in this collection, but louder in my next collection is The Mother Wound. And it was like my first like mother wound poem. And yeah, so I remember it, and then I remember that it's just opened a door.
Yeah. What a great thing to hear Like this is
Yeah.
because that is also true, that you just keep writing the same one keeps writing the same 5 poems.
It is kind of true.
Yeah, for many people. I am one of those people, so
Yeah.
I feel like it is true for me. It might not be true for other poets here.
No, I think it's true to an extent.
Yeah, and to hear, oh my goodness, to hear you say this is close, that I can like, I can feel it.
Yeah, I'll never forget it.
Wow, yeah. My other question for you was, why did you think of Shelley and Sarah to join you this evening?
Oh, I'm just obsessed with both of them.
That's fair. That's super fair.
I was like, 2 of my favorite writers in the world are in San Francisco, so I have to. That was actually one of the. I was like thinking about what cities to go to and what bookstores to go to, and I was like, where writers that I love are was like one of. And I was like, obviously, I'm going to San Francisco. Look at the material. I had to get on a plane.
They're pretty great. I get it. Is there any, do you think, and I'm putting you on the spot, so if you can't think of something on the spot, that is okay, but can you think of any kind of natural connections between your work and their work?
Yes, I do feel like this is like, I felt that way reading both of your books, but I tried to humble myself because I was like, we cannot just simply compare me to the greats. But I think tone-wise, we have a lot of shaking hands. And I think obviously the queerness of it all, but as well as like queer longing, 100%. So I actually think we have like, I think the 3 of our work like actually shakes hands a lot.
Yeah, it was nice to hear you all sonically together. I think it worked really well. So, good job bringing us all together.
Good job to you too.
Of course.
And thank you so much again.
I would love to open it up to audience questions if you folks have anything to ask Seamus. Sarah.
I'm allowed to ask a question.
Oh, please.
I absolutely have a question. It just, your book is so full of love for the people in your life, and there are so many friends and beloveds in it. Can you talk a bit more about, I guess, your friendships and how they bleed into your work, and I guess how you kind of organize that, how you organize the different kinds of beloveds?
Yes, great question. My acknowledgements page is 4 pages long. And I was really waiting for my press to be like, hey, you gotta really cut that down. But they never said anything, and I was like, nice. And I really could have kept going, truly. I think, well, I'm estranged, so I think like found family is super a thing for me. As well as that rule where you're like not supposed to mention people in your poems or like people's names. Like I don't like, I am sort of like Frank O'Hara in that way where I'm like, you just stick along for the ride. These are your friends too. But I think that I have really, really good friends. And the older I get, the more I realize how uncommon that is and how lucky I am and how hard it is to build community. But I think as far as like values goes, building community is my number 1 value. And so like I do put my money where my mouth is in that way, where I like really show up. And it is a lot of time and energy to like really show up for your friends, obviously. And so I always will do that. And so, yeah, I think my community is like, I think that truly I wouldn't be here if I didn't always have such good friends. There are a few people in these acknowledgements that I'm like, I like actually would not be here without them, like not to be dramatic, but some of the friends in here have saved my life on multiple occasions. And so like, I really owe, I also think like, as far as ecosystems go, like, everything that I am and everything that's in here, like, is also a product of the people that I'm surrounded by, who are usually a lot smarter and cooler than me. And so I just absorb that a lot, and so it comes into the book. But yeah, I also think my like dedication to my best friend Nick, it says, for Nick, I stopped trying to write you poems when I realized they were all for you. And it's because I think he's just like in every poem. Like I used to really try to write him poems, but I'm like, they're just all of my friends are just in here. And I think my publisher one time said that he says this book has radical tenderness in it. And I actually very much agree with that, and I think it's towards my friends. Funnily enough, like romantic love-wise, there are love poems in here, but they're all heartbreak poems, which is very interesting, because I think I wanted there to be love poems in here at points when I've been, like, dating people, but no. Yeah, I mean, and it's also been over the course of 10 years, so there's, like, all of my best friends have made it in here somehow. And thank you for that question.
Anyone else? Hey.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, thank you so much. I thought that was amazing, and all three of you, just thank you all for your work and sharing. My question might sound a bit simple, but I couldn't help but think, when do you decide or get to the point of completing a poem? Is it a feeling of finality that you embrace? Do you just put your pen or pencil down? What is that like, and how do you get there? Because I know that two of you had mentioned that your collection has taken 10 years to put together, and it got me thinking. And I also wanted you to know that when I was reading Theophanies, I started from the back because I'm left-handed. So I start journals from the back. And when you said that, I was like, I relate.
Nice. That's actually not a simple question at all. Because I think like how do you know when a poem's done? How do you know when a book is done? Like, how do you even write a poem? I don't know. And actually, Ada Limon, our poet laureate, just put out a video the other day being like, I have literally no idea how to write a poem. And I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad she did that, because I think all of us were like, same. I feel like for me, with like when a poem is done, I just think that I've just said everything that I had to say. And that's how I know, that's how I know a poem is successful. My definition of like the success of a poem is I deem whether or not it's necessary for me. Because I stopped trying to look at things as good or bad a long time ago. I'm just like, is this poem necessary? If so, okay, I will keep it. I was going somewhere with this. I really was. Yeah, I think that, the poet Kimiko Han talks about like the poem as a portal. And so I think about that all the time, where I'm like, I'm writing poems, so I've stepped into this portal. And once I have sort of cataloged everything that the portal had to show me, the poem is done. I also have a really, really cute habit of thinking a poem is done a long time before it actually is. And then putting it in front of an editor who's a great editor. And I have so many of those in my life. I'm truly like an abundance of brilliant editors. Then they'll be like, oh yeah, by the way, here's all these edits. And then I find out the poem was actually like not done. But as far as like walking away from it and being done writing it, I think it's just, have I said everything that I need to say, and is this necessary?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Can I ask a brief follow-up? What does necessary mean to you? What's the rubric for necessary?
That is a good question. I think it's kind of an intuition right now, but I'm going to try and put it into words. I think I had a really hard time. I didn't show anyone I've been writing poems since I started writing, and I didn't show anyone any of my work until I was like 20. Yeah. And I think that I used to get so caught up in whether or not something was like good. And so I just tried to step back and say like, do I have to say this? If I have to say this, it doesn't really matter whether or not it's good. So that's kind of like one of the ways that I try to keep myself healthy. Actually, I have a lot of like habits in order to keep myself like my relationship with my work as healthy as possible. Some people say that it's too much, like 'cause sometimes I'll just like not be excited about things, and it'll be because I'm tempering myself. But yeah, I think if it's like I absolutely have to say this, then it's necessary.
Cool. Good answer.
Thank you.
It would have been good regardless.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think let's take, you in the back.
Do you have any meals that helped you along those 10 years? And then I forget the second question that I had for you. Oh, what do you do when you have nothing to say?
Did you say any meals?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Love that question.
We're talking food. I love it.
I love sushi so much. It is like my number one celebratory thing. I'm gonna get wild every time I get sushi. Also, I've just learned that I'm like, don't go unless you have the money to embark upon this journey. Because I'm gonna order whatever I want. It's just gonna happen every time. So sushi, and then I love dumplings and cold noodles and scallion pancakes. So those are like like sushi or dumplings, I'm in. I'll stay in. And I will say, I actually pretty much take myself out to sushi every time I'm celebrating something. So a bunch of these poems were nominated for Best of the Net at one point, and I like took myself to sushi. So like, there's been a lot of sushi dinners and dumplings, which is really a blessed life. So thank you for this question. I'm so grateful to be alive. And then the second question was...
What do you do when you have nothing to say?
Oh, when I have nothing to say, I try to shut the fuck up and listen. Part of being a Libra and also being like a trans man, still a man, is that I never shut the fuck up enough. And I try to just really, really find my inner shut the fuck up and listen whenever I have nothing to say. Because I know that us men, we have a way of opening our mouths when nothing is really coming out. And also, I think there's a lot of writers who will say, like, go clean your house. I think Carl Phillips will be like, go do your chores when you have nothing to say, which is a really good note. And I'll try to, like, go outside or go to the park. I have a way of, like, being in my head. I'm, like, 99.9% in my head. So when I have nothing to say, I'll make myself take off my headphones on my walk, which I hate doing because I love being moody and walking with my headphones in. But I'll try to listen to sounds and also read. That does it for me every time, to an annoying extent. I'll be like trying to read, and then I'll get a bunch of ideas. And I'm like, I have to put down the book for a second and like write down whatever idea. And now that I'm being annoyed while I'm trying to read, ideas are happening. And also museums. Although I don't really do them in LA as much now that I live in LA. I used to go all the time in Chicago, but in LA you have to like drive and park and get gas, and also my car is like a disaster. So I don't take it out unless I must. So I don't do museums as much in LA, but in Chicago I would go to museums all the time. Thank you.
Those were two really great questions. I'm going to keep that food one in the back of my back pocket. I think we have time for one more. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier, like, kind of having these like, sort of healthy boundaries when writing poetry. Do you want to share any of them?
Sure. Well, I've been in therapy for 11 years now, so that helps. Not looking at the writing as good or bad, but looking at it as necessary or not necessary. When looking at a poem, like, one of the things is, like, I, like, think about, if I said what I needed to say. If I said what I needed to say, okay, we did that thing. In terms of publication, I am an editor at Hooligan, but also I've been an editor for a long time, so this is easier once you've had editing experience, but in terms of publishing, it literally has nothing to do with you. And I remind myself that all the time. Like, that editor or reader could have just, like, had a bad day. They could, like, sometimes when I'm reading, it's like I stop being able to process words because I've read so many poems that day, and that's when I pull myself away from editing. But sometimes it's like they have a packet of like 700 poems to read, and they just have to fucking read them. I actually think publication is really dangerous, which might be a dramatic way of describing it, but I think that once you start exposing yourself to like what other people think of your work, it can be like a very slippery slope. And so I just try to remind myself that, like, as long as I'm, like, I think it was 2 years ago, I was having a rough time, and I was like, I need to adjust my definition of success. So I took away any awards, numbers of sales from the book, people talking about the book, whatever, and I was like, my definition of success is now, am I writing things that I'm proud of? It's easy to forget that one sometimes. Am I living as well as I possibly can and taking care of myself as much as I possibly can? Have I showed up for my friends lately? And am I reading? If I'm doing all of those things, I am successful. And I try to take all of the numbers and all of the other stuff out of it, because if I have zero control over it, I try to take it away from my point of view. And then lastly, I think a lot about, like, scope and lens. So I think, like, if you think of your career as like a tree, like how many readers you have and like how many awards you've won and all of that, that's like sort of like the leaves and the canopy. And every time my head goes up in that direction, I like to take it and push it back down towards the roots and focus on like the things that I can focus on. So I'm like, I cannot control whether or not people like my work, but I can control whether or not I've finished reading Plato today, and I can control whether or not I have like written something today, and I can control whether or not I eat a meal and clean my room. So every time I like catch myself doing canopy thinking, I'm like, no, the roots, because that's how you like grow a fantastic tree, is through the roots, not through the rest of it. So that's kind of some of the things that I try to keep in mind. They're all great. Sometimes it does lead me into not being excited about things. Like, I felt numb about this book for like several weeks after it came out, and I was like, we need to do something about this. Like, I probably shouldn't be feeling numb, but I think part of it's to protect myself, to be like, I cannot control how many copies it sells, or like who gets their hands on it. Or also, I don't know if you feel this similarly, but like, you have really no idea how your book is doing. Really. There's really kind of no way to know. So, yeah, I try to keep my distance from all of those things to stay healthy, sort of. Did that answer your question? That was cool.
That was incredibly insightful, and I would like everything that you just said in the last 2 minutes, like, put on a pillow or something.
On a pillow?
Or like something to like put over my desk or something decorative.
I sort of am working on an essay on it, so I will send you the draft when it's done.
Want that thing. This is also recorded, so I can.
Oh, right.
Back.
You can play it back.
Seamus, thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting us be a part of your book's journey, for coming to San Francisco, for inviting Shelley and Sarah to read with you. Let's give a hand for Seamus Isaac Faye. And
thank you all so much, for real.
Shelley Wong and Sarah Ghazal. I am just here to say, one, to express my gratitude to all of you for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. And to the people online, thank you for joining us as well. We have books by all three of our poets at the front register. You can find them there. I'm sure they would be happy to sign copies for you if you ask them nicely.
Totally.
And if you need anything else, let me know. If not, I would love to give one more hand to all three of our writers joining us tonight.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.